From Atari to Nintendo to Sony, the video game world had always been meant for kids. Even as violence and gore in gaming increased with games like Mortal Kombat and Doom, the target demographic was always skewed young. But by the early 2000s, as gamers grew older, the age of the average player had risen enough for a change in game design philosophy. The market had grown to the point where it could tolerate, and in fact desire, mature and adult content in gaming. There was a revolution in the making, if only somebody could get it started. And in 2001, one upstart company founded by unknowns with little gaming experience dared to kick it off, and in doing so became the flag bearer for a new era of gaming and gamers. In so doing, they have become one of the most successful, recognizable, and controversial names in the entire gaming market. A powerhouse force of innovation and bravado that has changed the course of a medium and redefined what an art form was capable of. Two kids from England may never have become the musicians they wanted to be, but that didn't stop them from becoming their own kind of rock star. Growing up, Sam and Dan Houser always wanted to be rock and roll gods. But at some point, the two boys from London got exposed to an American import, hip-hop. It quickly became their new inspiration, a musical style that, like rock, was equal parts look, sound, and style that somehow consolidated into one way of life. It was a philosophy that the brothers took to heart, one that would define their later works. Once they finished school, the pair dove straight for their dream and joined major music label BMG in London. Unfortunately, real jobs didn't look like music videos. Their work was dull and boring. Sam and Dan quickly found that being in the heart of the music industry was a far cry from being stars in their own right. As with so many hopeful youths, it looked like reality might kill the dream. But then in 1993, BMG did something unexpected. Cashing in on the gaming craze, it started an interactive division based right out of London, and they wanted young, hip kids to drive it. Starving for more creative freedom, Sam and Dan jumped on board, knowing absolutely nothing about programming or game making. Perhaps it was no real surprise then that BMG Interactive's library of work was not exactly stellar, and sales didn't exactly rival BMG's music division. And then, from the unlikeliest place imaginable, the Houser brothers met the crew with whom they'd shake the industry. DMA Design from Central Scotland were famous for creating the Lemmings series of games. Clearly kids' fare, but also imbued with a dark sense of humor. DMA now had an idea for a different kind of game, a top-down driver with a punk sensibility called Race and Chase. The 2D game would be a fairly basic racer, but would feature carjackings, thugs, mafiosos, police, and innocent bystanders just waiting for a whacking. Any and all of these were potential victims for the player, making the otherwise simplistic title far more adult than others on the market. The game also lacked something every other game had: specific goals. Instead, the title would be an open world with lots of options. There were in fact 3 worlds to choose from: Liberty City, which was clearly New York, Vice City, which was clearly Miami, and San Andreas, which was clearly San Francisco. It would be up to the player to decide what he wanted to do in it. If he failed, he wouldn't get a game over screen or restart a level. Instead, he'd simply lose his weapons and then go off to do whatever he wanted, again. If he hit a part that was too hard or that he didn't like, he wouldn't be stuck with it. He'd simply try something totally different. The Housers were blown away. They recognized the potential for a groundbreaking new kind of game, based not off of objectives, but off of player choice in a deep, varied world. They agreed to publish the game, and DMA set off to work. It ended up taking longer than anticipated, nearly 30 months. The freeform nature of the game, which made it so appealing, also made it difficult to code and harder to test. The simple title became a high-risk gamble. But at last, Race and Chase released in 1997, under a new name, Grand Theft Auto. Critics praised it for all the same reasons the Housers had, and it went on to be a success by the standards of BMG Interactive. Sadly, BMG's standards weren't that high. 2 million units was nothing to scoff at, but despite GTA's high-octane performance, the publisher was floundering. Their corporate overlords wanted to cut them loose. Meanwhile, in New York, another struggling upstart publisher was looking for fresh blood. Take-Two Interactive wanted to be making darker, edgier games, but thus far hadn't found any success. But recognizing that the guys from London had a vibe and a style just looking for an outlet, Take-Two bought BMG's interactive division. The brothers who'd grown up listening to New York hip-hop were about to move to the Big Apple. They'd been given a budget and the creative freedom to do whatever they wanted. If they played their cards right, they knew this could just be their big break. All they needed was a name for their new venture. In homage to their original dream, they called their new publishing house Rockstar. Tune in next time to see how Rockstar turned Grand Theft Auto into a phenomenon.